Question 9. Not everyone gets paid to create something they are passionate about, but where do you see the value in people still pursuing their passions, even if they aren't getting paid? And how can we encourage others to live a life of creation, even when their creations seem to go unnoticed?
I mean, I think I kind of hammered this one back on question five pretty hard. Um, but I think as just a peoples, it would be good for us to just not place so much value on creating things and to just appreciate some things for being created for the sake of creating them. Um, and I think of something like quilts, you know, quilts weren't necessarily made to be sold.
Right,
A lot of times they would be made as a gift for someone,
right,
but they were a social thing for people to do. They would sit around and work on a quilt together, right?
right.
Um, but if you see the artistry involved in it, I mean, it's stunning, right?
Yeah, it's
I mean,
incredible.
and I think now, these days especially, it's really being honored. I think we really could do ourselves a service to get back to that kind of um, idea of making things.
Well,
Um,
I mean, quilts are even hugely functional and practical too.
yes,
And but just darn, it's a warm blanket done very artistically and creatively.
yes, and generally not for a commercial,
Right.
like, I mean,
They're
some people,
one-offs.
yeah. I mean, some people would make them to sell them, but generally speaking, they were not
Right.
being made to be sold. They were made as gifts.
Right.
Um, and I think of things like that, and I think, it would be great of us as a species to just be thinking of the creative process as less of something that has to have value. That we
Right.
either have to a we have to attach money to it, or we have to attach time to it, or some other form of currency.
Right.
Um, even if it's human input, whatever that is. I think thinking of creative things as a store of value, we should be moving away from that and thinking of things as creating things just for the uh, either the pleasure of it or for the mental health aspect of it or for the social aspect of it. So many creative things can be social also,
Oh yeah, definitely.
and and that's good for us as a people.
Right. Um, well, that you're making me think of the wooden spoons you made during like the
Oh
COVID
yeah,
COVID time.
yeah. That was
Like,
such a good time. Just sitting in the backyard, we'd just make spoons, just carving
right.
spoons.
Like that's incredible. It's totally functional,
Yeah,
artisanal. Like,
and you give them as gifts,
yeah.
to people. It's just like, here, I made you a spoon, and people they're like, "What do you mean you made this?" And you're like, "Yeah,
Right.
we just bought some tools,
Right.
and just did it." And yeah, because we did it because you couldn't go anywhere. I mean, how great is that? Like, imagine if everybody did something like that. It just would be, I think, as a species, a great direction for all of us to go in.
Right. Well, I mean, I even think about, we both are into gardening. Um, and we have fruit trees, citrus trees, and we've connected with other neighbors who produce other fruits that we don't have. So we all love to garden. So it's like, well, you grow this, I grow that. Let's trade a
Yeah,
little bit. You
yeah,
know, we'll put stuff out in the front sometimes if we don't need it or
yeah,
whatever. I think a lot of history there was a lot of stuff like that where it's just you were gifted in this area, so you made these things. We are gifted here, so we made
right,
these things, and then we just traded the barter system and all that kind of stuff.
right,
I feel like I've seen a little bit of that mindset coming back a little bit
yeah,
more these days than my childhood at least. Where I think people are seeing the value of making things that are higher quality, long
Yes.
lasting, and then being able to trade those or sell them or use them for other things too.
And let's be honest, I think, maybe to cure some of what is ailing us right now would be a little more of that spirit of not looking at our neighbors as different than us, or believing in something that we don't believe in, or we like these neighbors but we don't like these neighbors, or any of those kinds of ideas. Maybe if we could just say, you can create and I can create, and if we can share that with each other, then we can see each other for who we really are, which is just human beings at the end of
Right.
the day, you know? And understand that the differences that we perceive in each other are actually differences that have been perpetuated by other people that would prefer us infighting with each other rather than pointing out some of the bigger flaws that we are experiencing.
It took the pandemic for, me and my wife to actually reach out to our neighbors
Right.
because society now is so independent
Yeah.
of each other. You just go work and you go home. And we found out that we were surrounded by some really cool people, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, we kind of, I joke with my neighbor too, and it's just like, and it took us like 2 years to even say hi to each other,
Yeah.
because we just, everyone's just so quiet and you don't want to disturb anyone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my neighbor is awesome,
Yeah.
and my wife is connected with some really good neighbors and has developed great friendships with them. And it took the pandemic where everyone was scared and
Right.
fearful and felt alone. My wife made little gift baskets and dropped them off at our all of our neighbors'
Yeah.
doors because she just felt like she needed to do something. And I'm like, just that act of neighbor
Yeah.
neighborly kindness has opened all the doors to our neighbors, and we now know them all.
And that was a creative act that your
Oh yeah,
wife did,
totally.
and like that wasn't that didn't have any value attached to it. It didn't have any, like, there was no motive to it, it was just something that gave her pleasure, and then
Mhm.
by giving herself pleasure, it gave other people pleasure to just open these doors to beautiful relationships.
Yeah,
I mean, what an amazing act that is,
yeah.
to have that happen. I mean, that's kind of incredible, I mean, how many people, would never do something like that and then would never know their neighbors?
Me, for
Right. But
sure.
I mean, most of us really,
Right.
but I mean, that creative act that your wife did, I mean, changed the
Changed
course.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
changed everything. And like my neighbor has, helped me with songs.
Yeah.
He's we have cigars together. It's just we've connected in a lot of ways, and
I know
it.
my brother is very close with his neighbors, and he got a very lucrative job offer, and it was one of those kind of life-changing job opportunities.
Right.
Um, and he turned it down because he was going to have to live in a place that was, I mean, it was a fine neighborhood. It wasn't a bad neighborhood or anything, but it wasn't a great neighborhood
Right.
just for neighbors. I mean, the houses were nice,
Right.
but it wasn't
Just dead. Yeah.
walkable. Yeah, it wasn't walkable. It didn't have a lot of life to it. Um, it didn't have a real community, the way that his neighborhood that he lives in now does. I mean, they spend holidays together, all of
Right.
his neighbors. And I mean, for him, he looked at it and he said,
Not worth it.
it's not worth it to me.
Yeah.
What a great thing that we're lucky to have that in this day and age, Like how grateful we are to all have those opportunities.
Yeah,
It's pretty
definitely.
special.